Thank you very much for having me here this evening. And as Keith was saying, what I wanted to have a quick chat was how Bord Bia is involved in supporting the SME sector. I have to acknowledge I have no connection with Meath. As my confession to kick things off, I haven't been born here, none of my family were. I'm a Corkonian from the basics. So having made that confession, who is Bord Bia and what are we all about? Well, basically, we're a semi-state organisation who have as our mission that we're looking to drive through market insight and in partnership with the industry the commercial success of our world-class food and drink industry. And what I want to just stress for a couple of minutes is the key elements that are within that. And I think just building on some of the points that Brendan and John have been talking about already as well. It's all about market insight. It's actually all about knowing who it is you're selling to, why you're selling, and what's different about you. And what we spend an awful lot of time in Bord Bia is trying to understand the dynamics of the different markets that we're targeting, be that our home market or be that any of the extraordinary markets that are open for business with us. And that's over 180 different markets throughout the world. One of the key ways that we work, because we're a small organisation of just 90 people, is with partnership, and we work in partnership with the clients that we work with. We work in partnership with organisations. We have a fantastic partnership with the LEOs now because we're working with them on the Food Academy programme, and it's all about trying to get commercial success, because if business isn't being written by that food industry, then there's no point in what we do in any way. And I'm delighted to say that from the food industry's perspective, these last 5 years have actually been an extraordinary time of growth. Our very, very tough times were back in 2007, 2008, but since that landmark has happened to us, the food industry has recovered and is now at an all-time high with exports of over 10 billion, or just under 10 billion euro reported in 2013. But let me talk about for a moment as to what it is that Bord Bia does. This seems to be blocking on me. Anything happening at all? Okay, finally. Let me talk to you about what it is that we do from our strategic priorities. And we have 4 things that are the complete focus of our organisation. There's none of them that are more important than the other. It's just the order that I'm going to talk you through them. But there's one that's probably getting an awful lot of airplay from different companies and in different places. And that's our initiative, which we work under the title of Origin Green. The Irish food industry and the Ireland itself, I guess, has marketed itself as being green for as long as I've been around. And I think for many people in the room, the same thing is familiar. We've been the green island, we've 40 shades of green, everything. We've always marketed ourselves in that space. But in the food industry, what we're looking to do is actually prove it. Because in the dynamic industry that we're working in, you have to have transparency, you have to be able to stand over everything that you're talking to your customers and buyers about. And what we have found in the research that we've done with our potential customers and our current business-to-business customers is telling people that we're green is no longer good enough. What we now have to do is prove to them our credentials. And what we're talking about in our credentials is a commitment to sustainability within the food and drink industry, which is one of the key drivers of growth that any of our businesses are looking at. So we're now the first country in the world that has a national programme that is committed to sustainability in the food and drink industry, and it's allowing us to be pathfinders in that space. Currently, we've got 80% of our exports, companies that are producing that, signed up to this Origin Green programme, which is a journey of self-improvement and development as we actually make a difference in our commitments to the future of our industry as well. Our second priority, and I think I'll be taking a lot of what Brendan has been saying as well on what it is that challenges that companies are facing and what it is that we're trying to do to help them with that. And it's all around how can Bord Bia help on the enhancing of competitiveness of the Irish food industry. And what we're about within this space is actually not about looking at your cost base in any way, but actually trying to help companies when they're looking at their market insight. Because if you have an idea and that idea is better or different from your competitors, that's the space that we want the Irish food industry working in. We've looked at talent programmes because, again, that's one of the key places that can differentiate the Irish food industry from any other sector, or can differentiate individuals in the food industry from others. And what we've tried to create are talent pools and attracting them to the food industry, because we're fully convinced that if we have the best people working in the food industry, we get the best results from that. We also have a programme, and again, I think Brendan and myself could have walked the talk on this one together, that he mentioned was all around collaboration. And in 2010, we worked very closely with Harvard Business School to talk through about what was happening in the food industry. And one of the things that they challenged us on was that we spent more time beating each other up than we did working together. And they introduced this concept to us that if we didn't create scale, or the illusion of scale, that we were at a thing of nothing, because we were all coming at perspectives from small businesses. And what we've looked to adopt is this new word that they introduced to the Irish food industry lexicon, which is a word called co-opetition. And what co-opetition is about is competitors being brave enough to work together. And what we're not looking at here is price fixing or anything like that. What co-opetition is about is leveraging the strengths of who you're working with and who you could potentially work with. And in that image that you can see there of the two children pulling away, and you've got the Kerrygold brand and you've got the Cashel Blue brand within that, what we're trying to illustrate in that is Cashel Blue as a farmhouse cheese company is an extraordinary brand in Ireland. It's got a fabulous product. It's an artisan scale product, and it was not able to penetrate into the US market in any great scale. And then you have the Irish Dairy Board, who had the Kerrygold brand, who actually had scale but had only cheddar cheese and butter. And what they were trying to appeal to was a different type of consumer who was looking for foodie credentials. By putting those two companies together and creating a branded Kerrygold Cashel Blue, you actually were able to use the wheels of Kerrygold in that market and use the brand and the product attributes that Cashel Blue brought to it. And that's two potentially competitors actually leveraging each other's strengths. And that's the type of thinking that we're looking for in the food industry, and looking to work together with as many companies as we possibly can. And the final piece on enhancing competitiveness is actually attracting scalable entrepreneurs into the food industry. We, back in 2010, sat down with Enterprise Ireland and Tagisk, and Enterprise Ireland were promoting this on their stands as well, I saw next door. We were looking to see how can we attract high potential into food. One of the big challenges, if you looked at the figures back in 2010, were that if you looked at high potential startups, there were 80, 90 of them a year being invested in from Enterprise Ireland. And within that, the food industry is the largest indigenous industry that we have in this country. But back in 2010, only 2 to 3 of those high potential startups were coming from food. And what you had to say there then was that the pipeline for innovation in food was either broken or something wasn't working in that space. So by working together, and again that partnership module with ourselves, Enterprise Ireland and Tagisk, what we looked to do was create a product that entrepreneurs could come into the food industry and they would get seamless help from everybody involved in it to help them scale their business. And we're currently recruiting for the next round of FoodWorks. We already have, in just the last 2 years, created up to 8 high potential startups just from that FoodWorks program, because we know that talent is there, but it's a case of how do you make them better, how do you make them market-led, how do you make them technically advanced, and how do you get them the finance to get them through that really, really challenging startup phase. And that's what we're positioning FoodWorks to do for them. The next piece that I'm looking at is building exports. And again, John mentioned that the absolute core to any businesses has to be looking at the export market. And within the food industry, we already have a very strong, vibrant market. We are looking continuously at exports, and how Borbia can help within that domain is very much focusing companies on understanding their market, using our 12 overseas offices as their eyes and ears on the ground, using the resources that we can supply them through market insight, going to trade shows with us, or market study visits that we are promoting on a regular basis to them, or creating a product that is known as Marketplace, which I'll touch on in a little bit more depth later, but it's basically about creating occasions where you meet buyers, but that you're prepared to meet them on every time. And then the final piece that I want to look at from that strategic priority perspective is about our home market, because we're very, very focused. Although I've said exports are key to it, without a strong home market, companies can't finance that export piece. And when we're looking at the kind of help that we can give companies on the home market, it varies from guidebooks to say, how do I sell to retail, how do I work food service, how do I build my base within that, but it's also looking at opportunities to feature products, be that at the Garden Festival in Bloom, where we have huge artisan markets, or maybe perhaps listening to best practice through our brand forum. But I guess if I look back at this home market piece, which is absolutely core to all of it, what I wanted to actually do is celebrate that Irish market that we have and very much focus on the difference that SMEs are making to that Irish market. When we're talking about our food culture in Ireland, we're a very, very unique part of that, and we research our markets on a continuous basis. But when you look at the Irish consumer and their interest in food, it's in a transformational stage at the moment. And you look at that graph that I'm just sharing with you there, where 70% of Irish consumers want to buy local food and are interested in buying local food. It's actually second only to the French. And the French have a phenomenal reputation on their boulangeries, on their fromageries, on their commitment to buying their food. But I think we're probably the unsung heroes from the Irish consumer's perspective in looking at their need, their want, their commitment to being part of that game as well. And it's actually more than just an interest in the concept. When we actually looked at how often are you doing it, and are you doing it once a week? Is it something that you do at Christmas or special times? Again, you're seeing that 52% of our consumers in the Irish market are actually looking at daily or a few times a week to look and search for local products in their stores. And you compare that to the GB market, which is in blue just beside it, and you can see that there's quite a significant difference. Or even if you look at the Netherlands, who are particularly bad at looking for local products, you can just see what an appreciative audience that we have within our Irish consumer base. And it's something I think that we should take the time to celebrate on, because the attitudes that consumers have to support the Irish economy, it's all about looking for local jobs. It's looking to help their kids stay at home, I guess, as well. But it's right the way through their behaviours, from choosing local products, shopping local products, and wanting to buy local products. And what we've looked at when we're kicking those statistics around, you basically have 70% of the Irish consumers committed in this way. And it's not a particularly new phenomenon in that when we've looked at this has actually got stronger and stronger throughout the recession, in that the figures that we've had since 2010 to 2014 have showed a commitment right the way through the hard times, that the food industry was really relating to the Irish consumer and something that they felt they could make a difference by helping with. So when we're looking at how we can help that food industry and helping the smaller businesses within it, we've created specifically to the smaller industries and the small businesses a website called Vantage. And this is blocking on me again. Vantage is our way of dealing with the small business companies. Thank you. The small business companies, by helping them to access us on a 24/7 basis. So we've specifically designed boardbeavantage.ie to be the eyes and ears of the small business community, that they can find, whether it's guides to anything that we produce, publications that we have, or even directories of what we're looking at, templates on how to write business plans, all of this in a highly interactive way that we can find out what it is they're looking for and when they're looking for it as well. We also run small business open days, particularly in the month of January. We have a very large event on at the 26th of January, where we're actually setting our stall open for all of the small businesses for the full year. We've an outline of all of the programs that we have available to them, and it helps them to interact with us in that way. But it's also our opportunity as well to launch the different guidebooks that we have, be that on how to do food markets, how to do small retail, how to do food service, because what we really want to be is having companies prepared for doing business at all times. I've mentioned FoodWorks already, which is our programme with Enterprise Ireland, and Tagus, which is all about finding the next scalable entrepreneurs. But specifically to this local Meath environment, we've also tied in with through Food Academy Start with the local enterprise offices here. And what we're finding with our Food Academy Start is it's a fantastic beginning on how to get the best practice and what we're looking for as well. So within Food Academy Start, it runs through 3 modules, and I imagine that you might have heard about it over the week, and particularly on Tuesday, but it runs through 3 modules where we're looking to share with companies who particularly are just at that startup phase, how do I look at an overview of the market? How do I find out what consumers are looking for? How do I find out the rules and regulations, be that in the FSAI and legislation around labelling, or be it that HACCPs and controls, etc. So this is a one-stop shop in order to help companies find that insight, and it also gives mentoring on an individual basis to companies. But what's really coming out of it, and we've almost had 235 companies gone throughout the country through Food Academy Start. In partnership with Musgraves, you're now actually seeing those companies in store. And there's now 100 companies on trial in stores on a 12-week trial with SuperValu to actually get that leverage that consumer who's looking for local. And they're now creating blocks within those stores that they can readily identify a Food Academy graduate. Today, we've now launched Food Academy Advance, which is the next stage post Food Academy Start, so that 30 companies are now working with us to build their business with SuperValu in order to get to the next phase of growth and get up to 50 stores in their portfolio. But all of this is about doing it with the consumer in mind, doing it with the finance and scalability that we're looking to fund in mind, and doing it most particularly with the how do I work with a retailer in a very, very commercial way. So we have very, very high ambitions for that particular programme. We also have grants for companies that we can assist up to 60% of their growth. Now, I must insist, these are small grants, but it's very much focused on the marketing effort that companies are doing, and we have these open at the moment if anybody is eligible for them. But we do give these grants to every single county in Ireland, and it's very, very well spread through. Finally, what we're also looking at is promoting small businesses. I think what was done here on Tuesday night with the Taoiseach and celebrating the Blosna Heron, etc., is a key element on putting out that tour de force of what the food industry is, what smaller businesses can achieve. We had something similar this morning already in Dublin where we were celebrating those 325 companies who went through Food Academy Advance. But it's all about keeping in touch with ourselves, with the local enterprise offices, to celebrate what is happening in it, because whether it's winning awards, whether it's getting new listings, all of this is news to both the local environment, to consumers who want to see food companies winning, but it's also for ourselves so that we can make sure that our services to you remain as relevant as possible as well. So in final closing, I guess one of our big celebrations that we do for the food industry every year is at our food market in Bloom, where we look to showcase to over 100,000 consumers in the June Bank Holiday weekend a celebration of what is the Irish food industry and giving consumers the opportunity to taste the food there. And I think what was outside in the food section at the back of the room today was also just an exciting way of tasting and talking to entrepreneurs, because that's, I think, what you really get from the food industry. And then in closing, I guess what I just wanted to mention as I walked through it very quickly was about that export piece. We have an event coming up on the 26th of March where we will be inviting 400 international buyers into the country to actually build that export piece. But those 400 buyers will be coming in to meet over 150 Irish food companies who've been trained and who are well prepared in meeting them, because the fundamentals of what I've said on knowing the market, having the insight behind it and being prepared for business is one of the core values that we have with everything that we do with the Irish industry. And what we're looking to achieve all of the time is celebrate and showcase what's the best in Ireland. So if there are companies who haven't signed up to this event and want to look at international and look at export, do talk to me by the end of the day as well, and we can organise that for you. So in closing, thank you very much for being here and giving us the opportunity to share that with you tonight.